Living in Laredo has opened my eyes to many things that I never thought were possible. As a future educator, I am learning that there are kids out there who are homeless. And unfortunately, it doesn't just have to do with the lack of food, but it could be a student who maybe doesn't have anywhere to sleep at night, or whatever the case may be. Sometimes the parents are in a bad place. Sometimes it's not because they chose to do these things. It could have been that they might have lost their job. I've learned just the same that these kids hurt physically, mentally, emotionally. And so when they come to school, despite the fact that we want them to learn, their focus is, what am I going to have to eat? What am I going to get from the nurse or from the school so I can keep warm when it's cold? And so it's something very unfortunate. And in interviewing a friend of mine and a former teacher who chose not to appear on camera, I got a different perspective from a family, in this case, the friend of mine, and then I also got the perspective from a teacher who could, in a sense, relate to it just the same. It's something very interesting.
An experience of being homeless as a single mother and two children was having the children witness a mother struggling and seeing the tears in a daily manner. Um, my children actually would go home and go to school, both crying, seeing what mom was going through. They saw me, you saw us three going together to food stamp area for the line, and and it felt like they themselves felt the not the embarrassment, but so much of feeling bad of the situation for mom. Um, they taught themselves not to ask for anything extra. They also taught themselves to embrace laughter at home when it was so empty. And now, as adults, they're strong because of this experience, as what they've told me in the past. Um, but it affects not only a parent, but it affects children as well. And that is my vision of homelessness.
When I first learned about this topic when doing this project, I was a bit hesitant. Homeless is something that maybe for quite some time I've felt very uncomfortable with it. The fact that it scares me. I mean, homelessness does exist out there. And each and every single day, we see how kids are affected in the school system. I constantly speak to my children's teachers, and they tell me some of these kids come from foster care, some of these kids come from the orphanage, and so it's something that they have to go through on a daily basis. They have to face the reality that they might not be with their family. And one of the biggest worries at times is the fact that they don't always get to eat. Some of these kids only eat breakfast and lunch in the school. And so when it comes to going home or going to wherever they're supposed to go, where do they have dinner? I mean, these kids don't have the resources. Another thing that I've learned is the fact that homelessness is not something that people choose to do. I see it out there, especially within adults. But these kids really sense it, and they really go through it physically, emotionally, mentally, every possible way. And it hurts as a parent to 4 children, you never want your children to suffer, but sometimes there are things that you won't have full control of. And unfortunately, sometimes even being homeless is something that they might experience. I hope that's never the case with mine. Nonetheless, as a teacher, I think it's really important that we learn to bond with our students. A conversation that I had with another teacher, she said, these kids really look to you for confidence, for a type of safety where they feel safe and they feel like you're going to be there for them. And so it's really important that just the same, you maybe don't treat them differently, but always keep an eye on them, because these kids have been through everything, and sometimes us as teachers, we're the only ones that are there to help them out. And so it's definitely something we want to keep in mind. What I've also learned from this project is the fact that I don't feel as awkward about the topic anymore. I feel like it's really taught me a lot. Homelessness is not just a lack of food, or being hungry all the time. It can be where they might live in a shelter for whatever reason it may be, but it just goes to show that there are many reasons why someone could experience homelessness. And sometimes it might be temporary, and sometimes it might be long term. But in all cases, there are definitely resources that the school and the district do provide in order to help these students out and make them feel welcomed and make them feel like they are just as important in the school system.